I still remember the first time I saw Madison at a coffee shop in Austin, Texas. She was photographing her latte with the afternoon sun hitting it just right. I thought it was adorable. I had no idea that little habit would become a warning sign I completely missed. I thought I had found someone special. She was beautiful, full of energy, and she made my life brighter. What I did not know was that to her, I was just part of a picture. And sometimes the parts that do not look pretty get cropped out. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you enjoy stories about standing up for yourself, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you will want to stick around to see what happened when I discovered my girlfriend erased me from her entire online existence. My name is Oscar. I am 30 years old, and I work as a software engineer for a tech company here in Austin. I make a decent living around $120,000 a year. Nothing extravagant, but comfortable enough. I have never been big on social media. My Instagram had maybe 50 photos, mostly landscapes from hiking trips, and the occasional picture of food I was proud of cooking. I was content with my quiet little online presence. Then Madison walked into my life. She was 27, worked as a freelance content creator, and had this magnetic energy that drew me in immediately. That day at the coffee shop, she noticed me reading a book about meditation and struck up a conversation. She was witty, intelligent, and laughed at my terrible jokes. By the time I finished my coffee, I knew I wanted to see her again. Our first few months together felt like a dream. Madison introduced me to her world of Instagram and content creation. She had around 80,000 followers and was pushing hard to reach 100,000. I did not understand much about influencer culture, but I supported her passion. That is what you do when you love someone, right? She started featuring me in her posts, pictures of us at dinner on weekend trips at trendy brunch spots. I felt special being shown off to her audience. I remember thinking how lucky I was that this beautiful, ambitious woman wanted to share her life with me publicly, no less. Madison often talked about our future together. She mentioned getting an apartment together, maybe setting up a little studio space for her to film content. I loved hearing her dreams. I wanted to be part of them. About 4 months in, I noticed something small but strange. Madison became more selective about which photos she posted. Pictures with me in them started appearing less frequently on her feed. When I asked about it, she gave me a smile and a quick explanation. "Babe, my audience likes a consistent aesthetic. It is not about you, it is just strategy." I believed her. I told myself she knew her business better than I did. Who was I to question how she built her brand? But something shifted in our relationship after that conversation. Without realizing it, I started spending more money on dates that would photograph well. Fancy restaurants with beautiful plating, weekend getaways to photogenic locations, trendy cafes that had 6-week wait lists. I was trying to be worthy of her feed, even though I would never have admitted that to myself at the time. My best friend Derek started noticing changes in me. He pulled me aside one night after a few beers. "Oscar, you have spent more money in the last 2 months than I have seen you spend in 2 years. What is going on?" I brushed him off. I told him I was just enjoying life, treating my girlfriend. He gave me a look that said he did not believe me, but he let it go. Derek is good like that. He says his piece and then respects your choices even when he thinks you are making a mistake. Looking back, I wish I had listened to him. I wish I had seen what was right in front of my face. But love has a way of making you blind to the things you do not want to see. 8 months into our relationship, Madison brought up the idea of moving in together. She framed it as a practical decision. "Oscar, I am paying so much in rent. If I moved in with you, I could invest that money into my content. Better equipment, better locations, better everything. It would really help my career take off. I loved her. I wanted to support her dreams. So I said yes. Madison moved into my apartment the following month. We agreed she would not pay rent while she was building her brand. She promised to contribute once the sponsorship deals started coming in. I covered everything: rent, groceries, utilities. I even upgraded our internet package so she could live stream without any lag. A few weeks after she moved in, Madison mentioned that her phone camera was not good enough for the quality content she wanted to produce. I bought her the newest iPhone. Then she needed a better computer for editing. I bought her a MacBook Pro. I told myself these were investments in our future together. The requests kept coming, always framed as necessities for her career. One evening, Madison sat next to me on the couch with a frustrated expression. "Babe, I hate having to ask you for money every time I need something for work. It makes me feel like a child asking for an allowance. Could I maybe have a credit card for business expenses? I promise I will only use it for content stuff." I hesitated for a moment. But then she looked at me with those eyes, and I remembered how much I loved her, how much I believed in her dreams. I called the bank the next day and added her as an authorized user on my credit card. The first month she charged around $300. Clothes for photos, some props for her background, a ring light. Reasonable expenses. The second month it jumped to $800. The third month over $1,500. By the sixth month, I was seeing charges of $3,000 or more every billing cycle. Designer handbags, expensive shoes, outfits that she wore once photographed and never touched again. I saw a charge for a $700 dinner at a restaurant I had never heard of. When I asked about it, she said it was a networking event with other influencers. I wanted to believe her, so I did. Around this time, I noticed something else. I could not remember the last time I had seen myself on Madison's Instagram. I picked up my phone one night and scrolled through her recent posts. Nothing. Not a single picture of me in the last 3 months. I recognized some of the locations. That fancy Italian restaurant where I paid $400 for dinner. The weekend trip to Miami that cost me nearly $5,000 between the hotel flights and activities. I was there. I paid for all of it. But in every single photo, it was just her. Alone. Living her best life. I brought it up that night after she finished editing a video. "Madison, I was looking at your Instagram. I noticed I have not been in any of your photos lately. Is everything okay?" She barely looked up from her laptop. "Oscar, we have talked about this. My personal brand is evolving. My audience wants to see an independent woman. A boss babe. Having a boyfriend in my feed messes with that vibe." I felt my stomach drop. "So you are pretending to be single?" She finally looked at me annoyed. "I am not pretending anything. I am just not mentioning you. There is a difference." I reminded her of everything I had done. The rent she did not pay. The bills I covered. The credit card she maxed out every month. The trips and dinners and equipment. She sighed like I was being unreasonable. "You did those things because you wanted to, Oscar. I never forced you. Do not use your generosity to guilt trip me now." I sat there in silence. I did not know what to say. Part of me knew she was right in a twisted way. She never held a gun to my head. I gave willingly. But I gave because I thought we were building something together. I gave because I thought I was investing in our future. That night I called Derek. He listened to everything without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Oscar, buddy, I love you. But you are being used. She is literally hiding you while spending your money. How do you not see that I defended her? I said Derek did not understand how the influencer world worked. I said Madison loved me, she was just navigating a complicated industry. Derek did not argue. He just said one thing before hanging up. I hope you are right, man. I really do. A few weeks later, I was lying on the couch scrolling through my phone when a text came in from an unknown number. Hey, you probably do not know me. I am friends with Brittany, who is friends with your girlfriend, Madison. I thought you should know that Madison just deleted all the photos with you from her Instagram. Like all of them. Even the old ones. I am sorry. My heart started pounding. I opened Instagram and went to Madison's profile. I scrolled down and down and down. Every single photo that had ever featured me was gone. Not just the recent ones. Everything. 18 months of our relationship erased. It was like I had never existed in her life. I checked her bio. No mention of a boyfriend. No relationship status. Nothing. I clicked on a recent post. Someone in the comments had asked, "Are you single?" Madison had replied with a winking, smiley face and the words, "Guess you will have to keep watching to find out." My hands were shaking. I felt sick. Madison came home around 11 that night. She had been out with Brittany, probably spending more of my money. I was sitting in the living room with the lights off, waiting. She flipped on the light and jumped when she saw me. God, Oscar, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? I kept my voice calm. Is there anything you want to tell me about your Instagram? I watched her face. For just a split second, something flickered in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by practiced innocence. What do you mean? I mean every photo of me is gone. Every single one. Our entire relationship has been deleted. She set down her purse and sighed like I was being exhausting. Oscar, I am rebranding. My new aesthetic is independent woman energy. Boss babe vibes. Having a boyfriend in my feed contradicts that message. I stared at her. So I am, what an embarrassment, a secret, you are being so dramatic. It is just Instagram. Our real life is the same. I shook my head slowly. Our real life. You mean where I pay for everything, where I fund your lifestyle while you pretend I do not exist? She rolled her eyes. Here we go again. I told you you chose to do those things. I am not going to apologize for accepting what you offered. I looked at this woman I had loved for a year and a half. This woman I had given everything to. And I finally saw her clearly. That night I did not sleep. I sat in the kitchen alone thinking about everything. About how I had lost myself in this relationship. About how I had become nothing more than a bank account with feelings. I remembered something my Aunt Linda told me years ago. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Madison had shown me exactly who I was to her. I was not her partner. I was not her love. I was not even worth acknowledging publicly. I was just the guy who paid the bills. By sunrise, I had made my decision. I called the bank as soon as they opened and canceled the credit card I had given Madison. I did not tell her. I did not warn her. I simply removed her access and moved on with my day. That afternoon, I started looking for apartments, studios, just enough space for one person. 3 days later, I was at work when my phone rang. Madison's name flashed on the screen. I answered calmly. What came through was pure chaos. Oscar, what did you do? My card just got declined at the mall. I am standing at the register with almost $2,000 worth of stuff. And they are looking at me like I am a criminal. What is going on? I let her finish screaming. Then I responded in the most peaceful voice I have ever used. Oh, that. Yeah, I canceled the card. You what? Why would you do that? I took a breath. For financial aesthetic, I am rebranding myself as someone who does not fund people who are ashamed of him. Having a girlfriend who spends my money on my statements messes with that vibe. Silence on the other end. Then her voice came back higher pitched. Oscar, this is not funny. Fix this right now. I shrugged even though she could not see me. I am not pretending anything. I am just not funding you anymore. There is a difference. You cannot do this to me. I kept my tone level. I can actually. And I have. Also, you should probably know I found a new apartment for you. I will pay the first month so you have time to figure things out. You have until the end of the week to move out. Oscar, wait. Let us talk about this. I am sorry about the Instagram thing. I will put the photos back. I will post about you tomorrow, I swear. I shook my head even though she could not see. The photos are not the problem, Madison. The problem is that I was never really part of your life. I was just the guy who paid for everything while you built a fantasy where I did not exist. I deserve better than that. She started crying, begging, promising to change. But I had already changed. I had finally woken up. It is just a bank account, Madison. Our real life is the same. Then I hung up. I sat at my desk for a long moment after that call, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Madison came home that evening ready for war. She called me selfish, controlling, petty, and about a dozen other things I will not repeat. I let her say everything she needed to say. When she finally ran out of steam, I told her calmly that I had already paid the deposit and first month rent on a studio apartment across town. I gave her the address and the keys. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. You already found me a place. When did you even do this? I have had a lot of time to think lately. About what I want. About what I deserve. Her approach changed then. The anger melted into tears. She apologized for the Instagram posts. She promised to feature me every single day. She said she would tell all her followers about me. I shook my head. Madison, if you have to announce me to the world to prove you love me, then you never really loved me in the first place. I was never asking for public recognition. I just wanted to be acknowledged by the person I was sharing my life with. And you could not even give me that much. She moved out 3 days later. I helped her carry boxes to her car because despite everything, I am not cruel. I just finally learned to value myself. The weeks after Madison left were hard. I will not pretend otherwise. The apartment felt empty. I kept finding little things she had left behind. A hair tie on the bathroom counter. A tube of her lipstick in the kitchen drawer. Each little reminder stung. Some nights I questioned myself. Had I been too harsh? Could we have worked things out if I had given her another chance? Derek came over often during those first few weeks. He never said I told you so, even though he had every right to. He just brought pizza and beer and sat with me while I processed everything. One night after we had been sitting in comfortable silence for a while, Derek said something that stuck with me. You know what the difference is between you and Madison? You gave because you loved her. She took because she could. Those are two very different kinds of people. He was right. I had given freely, but I had given to someone who only knew how to take. That was not love. That was a transaction where only one party knew the terms. I started rebuilding myself slowly. I went back to habits I had abandoned during the relationship. Morning runs before work, cooking meals instead of ordering delivery, reading books instead of scrolling through my phone, comparing myself to the glamorous lives Madison and her friends portrayed online. I called my Aunt Linda and told her everything that had happened. She listened patiently, then offered her wisdom. Oscar, you paid a high price for this lesson. But now you know. You know the difference between someone who loves you for you and someone who loves you for what you can give them. That knowledge is worth more than all the money you spent. She was right. The tuition had been expensive, but the education was invaluable. I started keeping a journal. Not anything fancy, just a notebook where I wrote down my thoughts at the end of each day. It helped me see patterns in my own behavior. I realized I had been trying to buy love my whole life. Not just with Madison, but in other relationships too. I equated generosity with worthiness. I thought if I gave enough, people would have to love me. That was my issue to work on. Madison had exploited it, but she did not create it. About 4 months after the breakup, curiosity got the better of me, and I looked at Madison's Instagram. Her follower count had dropped. The posts were less frequent, and definitely less glamorous. No more 5-star restaurants or luxury hotels. She had posted a long caption about learning to be truly independent and finding herself. I did not feel satisfaction reading it. I did not feel vindicated. I just felt a little sad for her. She had built her entire identity around an image that required constant funding from someone else. Now she had to figure out who she was without that support. I unfollowed her account and closed the app. That chapter of my life was over. A full year passed before I started dating again. This time I moved slowly. I paid attention to how women treated service workers. I noticed whether they asked about my life or just talked about themselves. I watched for red flags I had ignored before. Her name was Sarah. She was a 3rd-grade teacher who had never posted a selfie in her life. Our first date was coffee at a little shop near my apartment. I paid for her latte. She paid for my muffin. Nobody photographed anything. We dated for 3 months before she posted a picture of us together. It was from a hiking trip. We were both sweaty and laughing at the camera. The caption was simple: "My person." I looked at that photo for a long time. There was no perfect lighting, no aesthetic curation, no brand to maintain. Just 2 people who were happy to be together. I sent her a text. "I like being your person." She replied with a smiley face. "I like you being my person too." That was enough. More than enough. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if that stranger had never texted me about Madison deleting our photos. Would I still be funding her lifestyle? Would I still be her invisible sponsor watching from the shadows while she built a fantasy life that did not include me? Probably. Love makes you do stupid things. It makes you ignore what is right in front of your face because the truth is too painful to accept. But I am grateful for that wake-up call. I am grateful I found the strength to stand up for myself, even when it hurt. I am grateful I learned that setting boundaries is not cruelty. It is self-respect. Being deleted from someone's Instagram is a small thing in the grand scheme of life. But being deleted from someone's reality while they happily spend your money, that is something worth walking away from. And walking away was the best decision I ever made. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to remove yourself from a relationship where you were giving everything and receiving nothing in return? Have you ever had to choose yourself even when it meant losing someone you loved? Drop your story in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you have not already, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. I hope wherever you are, you know that you deserve to be with someone who is proud to have you in their life, both online and off. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.